Welcome to the Supper Talk podcast, where we have all of those dinner time conversations that nobody really wants to have with their family. I'm Chris, and this is my dad, Steve.
Howdy.
Today, we're not actually going to be having any of the awkward dinner time conversations because we're still on vacation. But
Indeed we
it's
are.
but it's Father's Day, so I wanted to give my dad a call on Father's Day to say Happy Father's Day.
Well, thank you.
And to give you guys a quick check-in of how our vacation is going, because I think it's hilarious that I chose the most ideal time in 2020 vision of I don't want to pay any attention to the news. I've been reading so much Dungeon Crawler Carl. I am 2 hours away from the end of the 7th book in a 7-book series, and I have like each book is between 18 and 28 hours long, so every single waking hour that I would have been paying attention to podcasts and news, I'm just like, how do we get to the next dungeon down?
Yeah, there's I've got a lot of reading this term, so I've been reading just a ton of stuff for school. And
Yeah. What do you got? Oh, go ahead.
I always get depressed when I look at the hours. It's like, oh man, I got 12 hours left of this book. And
Haley thinks that I'm going to go through withdrawals as soon as this series is over. And she's excited because she's at a point where she can take a break. And she just finished the 5th book. I'm about to finish the 7th book. My buddy Josh just started the 4th book. So I'm like racing through it. And Haley was saying, she's like, you're going to go through withdrawals when you're done with this series. I was like, no, I have no idea what's going on in the world. I am so excited to be done with the end of this little break because I definitely needed it because I've been in such a better mood not paying attention to the news. And I understand it now whenever I talk to people and they say that they don't pay attention to the news. Like, it really has made a difference towards whether or not I'm in an upbeat mood or paying attention to the atrocities that are going on around the globe.
yeah, and one of my classes this term is a history class. And I've taken a lot of history classes. Undergraduate, I took a ton of history classes, different topics, Um, and I was like, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to be in a graduate history class, and I wonder what the difference is. And there's really a lot of difference because in undergraduate, you're trying to learn everything that happened. So that's all the discussions, all the tests, everything are about what happened during this particular period or whatever. And in this class, it's really more about, okay, this is what happened, but what did that mean?
Like the
Um,
why behind it.
yeah, and that's the part of history that is really, really fascinating because, history is something that happened. Um, but then you're like, oh, okay, well, how did that thing or these things that happened affect the world, back then? And how are they still present in the world today? How are those impacts still present in the world today? It's been a really interesting and fascinating class.
So what have you got going on for the next 3 weeks before we come back from our break?
Wow. Well, so next week is I think it's next week. Yeah. Next week is I'll start the second term of the summer semester. So I'm getting ready to begin my sandwich where I'm finishing up the 2 classes I'm in, but I'm not going to be done with them. And I'm going to be starting 2 brand new classes. So
Yeah.
my school workload is going to double beginning next week for 2 weeks.
So it's a good time for us to have been on vacation for your next half.
It very, very much is. There's because it's and both my classes this term have been very academically intense. I mean, there's a lot of thought, a lot of writing, um, and because it's all online, we have these discussions, but they're written discussions, and so So you have to read what everybody wrote about this particular topic, decide who you want to respond to, and and then again, it's weird because in this history class, people aren't just looking for a grade. So you only have to respond to 2 people, but, it's I mean, people are responding, to 6
Based
or
off of if
7.
they just wanna respond.
That's exactly right. So that people are
Okay.
putting so much energy and effort into this history class, it's really impressive. Um,
Or they're
the
just having ChatGPT respond.
there's a there's a I don't think so. I don't think so because there's a again, I use AI, but I don't let AI write my responses, and, uh and you can tell the difference. You can definitely
Yeah.
tell the difference.
Yeah, you absolutely can. That's I've been working on a piano instructor. Oh, you've got layback. Okay, another one that I can't have because all I can have is what Costco offers.
I
Ugh.
know. This is layback lime and salt. So
Oh,
it's
that
like
sounds wonderful.
it is. It's a, it's a cerveza Mexican style
Yeah.
lager
Yeah.
with
Sounds like a
lime.
great summer beer.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, or the temperature getting really hot out. Yeah, it sounds really refreshing.
Yeah, it is. And it's definitely getting hot here. We've got 9 10s in the degree department.
Yeah, we were at 93 the other day. Mostly what we've been having is a big windstorm, which is bumming me out because I've been wanting to go out on my paddleboard. But where I go is in the spot in the canyon, and the canyon just channels the wind and it makes it way too choppy, and you can't really get any good control of your board with the amount of wind that's in the canyon. So I either need to go a little bit further up into the reservoir or just wait a little bit more time. But I went out on a huge started Sunday skate. So it was rollerblading this morning and it was a good morning for it. It was so pretty out. It was like in the 60s at 7 this morning.
Yeah, there's the mornings are nice and cool here.
Yeah, and I've been seeing you've been posting nothing but pictures of all the flowers that are in bloom.
Yeah, that's and there's it's really doing 2 things. One, it if you go out with the intention of taking pictures of flowers,
Mhm.
you look at all the flowers while you're walking, and it makes your day so much more enjoyable because there are so many beautiful little things that you just walk past, and you wouldn't see them if you're not looking for them.
That's one of the things that, having that Polaroid has actually helped out a lot. If I go on a walk and I just want to look for 8 specific things because 'cause I've got 8 shots, then it makes me look at everything a little bit closer, like, "Okay, is this one of those 8 things that I wanna keep or no?"
Yeah, I've done, uh, like, photo journeys where I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna take a picture of" one of them that I did is I'm gonna take a picture of all the post box containers
Mhm.
that I can find. So I'm just walking around and I'm looking for those blue, they're rounded on the top where you can put your
Yeah,
mail in. They're just, like, all around the town.
the
Well,
post office drop box.
yeah, they're covered with graffiti. They're just absolutely covered with graffiti. So it makes them interesting, because everyone's unique. And when you go out and you take a picture of all of those and you put them together, then you're like, oh, okay, it's kind of a photo essay of on a particular topic.
That's, the photo essay of Polaroids that's up at the shop. I'm kind of excited because one of the things that I'll be doing the next 3 weeks is taking that down. We've got our first, artist who's gonna be part of the featured artist showcase. He'll be the first featured artist showcase for the art gallery. And I, I'm a, I have learned a few things in the past few weeks about setting up a nonprofit. So I am going to be setting up the art gallery here in the next week as a 501c3. I've got two other people that'll be involved with it, but the way that we're going to operate is it'll be completely free display space for artists. It's on a 6 or 8 week rotation, depending on their schedule. And the caveat is when they drop off the artwork, they drop off the description, the valuation of it, and what they plan on selling it as well as the agreed upon pickup date. If they don't pick it up within 72 hours of the agreed upon date, then it's considered to have been donated to the nonprofit organization. So they'll be able to use their drop off slip as a receipt for their taxes because they're donating to a nonprofit. But then what we'll wind up doing as the nonprofit is at the end of the year do an annual indie gallery art auction. And then all of the money that we raise from the art auction will go towards a local nonprofit that's doing works in the community. So we can either donate to the Humane Society or like the Boise Bully Breed Rescue, or it's probably going to go to dogs. It's more than likely going to go to dogs, but it's cool because we figured out a way to be able to make it so that way it's beneficial for the barbershop because the barbershop is going to get free marketing from artists that are telling people about where their art displays are. Artists are going to be able to sell art quality art or art house quality art at art house quality prices without any commissions and be able to get additional eyes on their artwork and be able to have basically a space that looks like a posed exhibit so they can have some really, really good photography for their own portfolios. So it's really mutually beneficial there. And then it's a way that we can inject ourselves into the community by doing some good works with money at the end of the year and be able to have some fun with it. So I'm pretty excited because that's what I've been working on the last 3 weeks, what'll be going on for the next couple of weeks. And one more feather in the cap of, okay, let's see, I've been published in Rocky Mountain Bride. I have my own barbershop, and now I can say that I started a nonprofit. Yeah, all the things.
Nice. There's
And I have another shirt that I made.
built different, builds different. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The there's you should start. I say you should. I shouldn't use that word, but you might want to think about uh looking at becoming joining boards. You know, being on the board of a particular nonprofit or the board of a company or a corporation or whatever. Um,
we
uh,
are on the same page there.
there we go. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
there's
basically, and I was explaining this to somebody the other day, like everything that I've learned through my career, I and you'll appreciate this, I really, really think comes from lead the way. Rangers lead the way. And if you want to do something, you're going to lead others by doing it first. So I really want to have opportunities to do things. So, for instance, I was telling somebody the other day that I really want to get back into L&D and do more motivational speaking. And I think one of the most challenging things for me to do right now is figuring out how to speak effectively to people's goals and dreams in a way that's both effective and uplifting. And that's what a lot of this consulting stuff that I'm doing on the side is. It's giving me the opportunity to go through those experiences. And then building this nonprofit is going to help me go through those experiences. So that way, when I get to that next step that I want to get to, which is genuinely doing motivational speaking, being able to do travel gigs and speaking events, I want to be able to say, hey, this is coming from this experience. This is coming from this place. I've done this. And it's not just a matter of you should try and go out and do this. It's you should do this.
well, I know a little bit about motivational speaking because I have lived in a van down by the river.
See, it's all about like knowing how it is that you can connect with the people that you need to connect with. So, what are the things that we haven't had a chance to talk about that we won't get a chance to talk about? Because I Well, I haven't paid attention to any of the news. It was really hard to miss the fact that there was a really big, beautiful breakup. Like I saw that.
Yeah, there's
No one saw that coming.
yeah, nobody saw that coming at all. And
Yeah.
there's
Richest guy in the world, most powerful guy in the world. You put him in a room and be like, okay, who's more important?
that yeah, and again, I mean, there's there. I mean, I am less critical of Donald Trump than I am of Elon Musk. There's how I what the thing that I guess I would criticize Donald Trump is what on earth was he thinking? Except for he got a lot of money from the guy.
Yeah. Well, and this is the one thing I'll give Trump a little bit of credit for is that man will lie to anyone in the face unilaterally.
there's but yeah, so there's I was definitely expecting that. There's Musk's flame out has been pretty impactful. I think he's lost a lot of the shine that was on him.
Yeah, I think that he's just going to kind of get in the shadows for the next year, and likely people will forget about this as the news cycle continues, and hopefully he can just get back to putting robots on Mars.
Yeah, see, that's the thing though, because I was behind him on the going to the Mars thing. I was like, man, yeah, that's a noteworthy goal. But then this kind of happened, so I started looking at him in a completely different critical light. Not with the breakup, but as soon as he started this whole political thing, I started looking at him in a different light. And I'm like, Mars is really a stupid idea. I mean, it's just plain a stupid idea. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's not going to help us become interplanetary as a species. And it doesn't really do any practical good for us here on Earth. Whereas exploiting the moon, going to the moon and like actually using the moon like a resource, could be very beneficial.
I don't disagree with that, but as long as it's private money and not NASA money, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I did an interesting, so I'll tell you one of the ways that I'm using AI that's been different is I'm using AI now to build news stories about the things I'm interested in rather than just reading what's in the news.
Okay.
So um, I saw a little snippet about no, actually it was a podcast, and I saw the one of the founders from Anduril Industries was on a podcast. So I was like, man, I started thinking about Anduril Industries and SpaceX because they both have unique and novel business models. So I go to AI. I'm like, hey, find out all the information you can about the business models of SpaceX and Anduril Industries. Write a comparison for me, and then I asked it a few more questions. So I ended up with a really nice, very in-depth article about something that I was interested in.
Okay.
Instead of what the news is trying to get, because all of the media, whether it's mainstream media or new media, is just for me it's unsatisfying.
Yeah, it's and as soon as you realize that they're all selling fear and they're all kind of selling something and it's not your interests, it's just headlines and attention grabbing articles. It's like, okay, well that's not necessarily helping me grow. That's helping me understand what's going on in the world, but I'm not like personally fulfilled at it. Like I don't necessarily more things we won't talk about because we're on vacation, but I'm not necessarily excited about what's going on in Iran and Israel right now. It's not personally satisfying or uplifting. I just want to know because I need to be informed about it. But what I'd really be interested in knowing is about Oklo, which if you want more interesting things for your news feed, Oklo is the nuclear power company that I've been talking about for a long time that I invested in. They just got approval to put in a request to be the test operating facility for Ellison Air Force Base up in Alaska. And they got the approval for it, so that looks like that should begin in 2027 or 2028. And depending on how the success of that actually goes, then they could potentially be getting the contracts to make it so that way there's sustainable energy on all military outposts. Um, that to me is fascinating, and it has no one in the news is reporting on that at all because that's boring to 99% of people.
And I've spent a lot of time on Eielson, man. I'm just telling you, I've been out there's that's where when I was a scout platoon sergeant up there, we would we would go to the Yukon training area all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I had saw the article and I was like, "Oh, I that looks really familiar." Because like I remember when we were stationed up in Fort Wainwright that was one of the places that you had mentioned a handful of times to mom, but I just never known anything about that base at all, and this was the first time that I'd seen it since we'd lived up there.
Yeah, and the an interesting thing about Idaho is the nuclear lab outside in between Idaho Falls and Pocatello was is very historic. It was the first nuclear reactor that actually powered a city. Um, it was the site of the first nuclear accident in the United States. Um, so yeah, there's all kinds of connections between Idaho and nuclear power, and it's still an
Yeah,
active national engineering laboratory out there.
yep, and that's one of the reasons why I've been so interested in Oklo's development is they're so they had a lot of they had a lot of backing in their early beginning from Sam Altman. And the company itself is out of Northern California, but they've been in partnership with INL, Idaho National Labs, the nuclear lab on the eastern side of the state, since their early development. So the first operational facility that they're going to be building is in eastern Idaho at INL's property, and it's going to be operating out there. I don't know what it's going to be powering, but that'll be their first facility, and then Alaska, I think, is going to be one of their second or third. But their whole goal is to be able to provide more sustainable energy to all of the big tech companies that need better energy solutions for all of the AI needs.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes sense for Altman to be investing in that because there's such a need for electricity in
Yeah.
the AI space.
So let's see. So we're not talking about Israel and Iran. We're not talking about the big beautiful breakup. Um, yeah, let's talk about Boulder though, because you know you're in Boulder. What happened in Boulder in the last 3 weeks?
So 2 weeks ago today, I mean 2 weeks and 2 hours ago, 2 weeks and 2 hours ago, um, I'll just tell you the story from my perspective. So I was working on school and I was getting really, frustrated. So when I get that way, I'm like, I got to take a walk. And it normally happens about that time, sometime during the early afternoon. I'm frustrated and I got to go take a walk. So I'm walking down to the Pearl Street Mall. And so as I'm walking down, I see a couple cop cars with their lights on going by down towards the Pearl Street Mall. Not uncommon at all. This is a downtown area, so there's a lot of homeless people. It's not uncommon for there to be police activity on the Pearl Street Mall. It's almost always associated with a homeless person. And, if it's one homeless person, there's going to be six cop cars. And it's always a really, really overwhelming response, right? So, so as I'm getting down there, right as I'm going from the part of Pearl Street where you can drive to getting up on the pedestrian mall, It was odd because there was a cop car on the sidewalk. And you don't normally see cop cars on the sidewalk. Even if they're down there doing something, they find a place to park before they go help their buddy or whatever. But this cop car was on the sidewalk. So I noticed that and I'm like, that's a little interesting. And I could see that there was a commotion at the courthouse because I was just one block away from it. So you get to the pedestrian mall coming from the east, there's one block of pedestrian mall, and then there's the block that has the courthouse on it.
And you live just a couple blocks away, right?
Yeah, yeah. So this is very close to my house or to my apartment. So, so I'm like, my plan was to go to the mall, and I was going to get an ice cream cone at Gelato Boy, which is right there on at the beginning of the pedestrian mall, and I was just going to walk down the pedestrian mall and then come back eating an ice cream cone, right? So that's what I did. I saw the cop car. I'm like, okay, that seems a little odd. And I noticed there was a lot of people coming towards me, but I didn't put two and two together that they were all going in that one particular direction and nobody was going in the direction that I was, right? So I go up to the Gelato Boy, the gelato shop, and I go to open the door and it's locked. It's the middle of the day, right? So it's 1:30 in the afternoon.
How dare they not serve gelato in the middle of a hot afternoon?
Well, and then I look and there's like all the people who are right there on the inside. So I'm like, oh man, maybe there's something. I didn't get it. But then when I looked at him, the guy who was on the inside was looking at me and his eyes were wide. Like he was very, very afraid.
I was just thinking of how comical this is because knowing you, knowing what you have done in your life, knowing who you are, just this idea of people bunkering down, everyone running in one direction, and you're just like, I'm gonna go get my gelato.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh, okay. There's obviously something's going on. So then I started looking around and I'm like, well, all the shops are shut down and everybody's walking past me going the other way from the courthouse. So I figured there was something going on to the courthouse. So like you said, I go to the courthouse. I'm like, okay, well, what's going on at the courthouse? So I go down there by it. And when I got there, there was two things. There was a bunch of people at the very front of the courthouse, who were couple cops, firefighters, and people who were laying on the ground. And then there were cops all over with yellow tape, trying to tape because they were trying to shut down the mall.
Right. And for people who don't know, the Boulder Pedestrian Mall, it's an outdoor pedestrian walking area that goes for multiple blocks. It's incredibly wide. There's tons and tons and tons of foot traffic. The courthouse is like what, smack dab in the center of all of it.
Yeah. So it's right there in the middle. And the interesting thing is, the day before, I think it was the day before, maybe 2 days before, they had just finished unveiling a plaque on the side of the building because it's the newest National Historic Landmark, because Boulder is the site of the first gay marriages in the United States. And the interesting thing about it is so there was the county clerk was just looked at the law, and she's like, it's against the law for same-sex couples to get married, but there's no law that prevents me from
issuing the license.
Issuing a license. So she issued, I think she issued 5 licenses, and all 5 of those couples got married, and then she was, the whole thing was shut down by the state. They changed the law so that clerks couldn't do it, but they never did anything. They were like, okay, well, these people got married. We're not going to make them unmarried now. Uh, so so those people, so there's 5 couples. I believe it's 5. It could be 3, but it's either 3 or 5. But
Well,
there's
so there's a plaque that just got put on the side of the building the day prior.
and
Not
there
to take you off your tangent, but you're going off a tangent. You're telling a story. It's like, okay, so there was a plaque that was put on the courthouse the day prior.
And so what? So now I'll tell you what happened, because I was trying to figure this out. So there was a guy who uh went to the courthouse dressed up as a gardener. He had a if you've ever seen one of those backpack sprayers, he had one of those backpack sprayers on, that was filled with gas, and he had a box that had 16 Molotov cocktails in it.
Fuck.
And he set the box down, and what he was waiting for is, there's a group here in Boulder that every Sunday they start on the other side of the pedestrian mall, the west side, and they walk from the west side of the pedestrian mall to the courthouse and back. And when they get to the courthouse, they usually stop and somebody takes a video for their website, their socials or whatever. And then they go. And what they do is they're called Run for Their Lives. And it's a group of Jewish people from the Boulder area who are raising awareness of the hostages who are still being held in Gaza. So they held their first march on Thanksgiving Day of 2023, right after the October 7th attacks.
And they've just been consistently speaking the message of bringing awareness.
Every week, on Sunday afternoon, they go. And because I go down there on Sunday afternoons, I see these people all the time. And very peaceful.
And they're largely an elderly group of people, aren't they?
Oh, dude, yeah. It is like a group of Jewish boomers walking down the Pearl Street Mall. There are some young people, but it's mostly boomers. And they have, they usually have an Israeli flag. They'll be wearing yarmulkes. A couple guys will have prayer shawls on, but they just walk, and like they sometimes sing Jewish songs. I've gone along behind them. I normally don't get close to protests because they're just targets. But I walked along beside them, just singing the Shema, kind of in solidarity, singing it quietly to myself. But anyway, so this guy has been seeing this, and for whatever reason, it's just like got him spun up. It's got the rage inside him. So he's like, I got to do something about this. I got to do something about it. So he waits for that group to get to the courthouse. And as soon as they get to the courthouse, he throws two Molotov cocktails at him, and then starts taking that sprayer that's on his back and using it as like a makeshift flamethrower, and burned 15 people and a dog. There's the person who was most seriously wounded was an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor. So she was a child in and I can't remember what concentration camp, but she was a Jewish child in a concentration camp in Germany during the Holocaust, and she's still alive, and she's here in Boulder, and then I don't even know what her condition is, but she was in critical condition that afternoon at a local hospital.
It's
And
just absolutely horrible.
yeah, I mean, there's so really amazing. The people, just the normal people who were there. Nobody that I saw was freaking out afraid. They were all just trying to help. And like the cops showed up within like a minute and a half of the attack, and they right away took the guy into custody. He had taken his shirt off because apparently when you spray that sprayer, you also burn yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
he burned like the
Wasn't
whole,
very well thought out.
yeah, he burned like the whole side of his face and everything. But so they took him into custody, and but then they're like, oh, they see a box with 14 more um Molotov
Molotov
cocktails,
cocktail. Yeah.
and they're like, oh, where else is there more of these? Is there another guy? Has he planted devices that are also going to go off? Because it's not just like he had one Molotov cocktail and this thing. This was if he had gotten his way, this would have been a
He would have much bigger. Yeah.
much bigger attack. There's so like I there's there's they were pushing everybody away, so I walked around through the alley to get to the other side, and by then the ambulances had gotten there, and they were taking the people and putting them in ambulances and getting them out of there, and the cops started pushing everybody back. You got to get out. You got to get back. You got to get back. You got to get back. So I'm like, I go home, and I go to my AI, and I'm like, hey, what's the story of the thing that just happened on Boulder? And another great story for AI. At first, it's like, I don't know anything about what happened in Boulder. I'm like, no, something just happened in Boulder. You need to look. So it's like, oh, okay, I'll check. And then it found it. So sometimes if you go to AI right away about current events, it won't know it. But if you press it and say, no, you're wrong, there's something that happened, it'll look. And it found information. And so
You
so that
it's funny because I'm usually on top of all of this stuff. Like I'm checking updates for everything, and the only reason that I knew about this, since I've been taking so much of a break off, was Mom texted me, and she said, "Hey, is your dad okay?" And she clearly has no reason to do that. She has no reason to. You guys are not in contact, and I was thinking in the back of my head, I was like, why the hell is Mom asking? The last time she did this was when there was a shooter. Oh my God, I need to text Dad really quick. And that's when I texted you, and you had told me what was going on. And it's weird for me because like this isn't an isolated incident, because there was when was this, like 2-3 years ago?
yeah, there was a guy who came to King Soopers right next to the culinary school that I went to.
Yeah.
So there was two grocery stores. He goes to one of them, which is a Kroger store, King Soopers. That's the brand. The Kroger brand in Colorado is King Soopers. So and he just started shooting up the grocery store. Just, well, I mean, he actually started in the parking lot. He shot the first person in the parking lot, goes inside, and just starts killing people, and it's one of those things. It's like, so that night, 2 weeks ago, I went back downtown because I wanted to see how it was, and the whole downtown area was shut off. There were federal agencies, every local agency that you could possibly think of. There were so many cops, and they were going alley by alley, building by building, trash can by trash can, looking for more bombs. And every business was shuttered. It was all shut up, but you could tell that they had just run out because all the lights are on. So it looks like the business is open, but they're locked up, and it's
Yeah.
so now you got to think of, not only are 15 people injured, a couple of them critically, including an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor, but those kids that were inside that ice cream shop. The reason that I looked in his eyes and I saw that he was terrified is because he was terrified. Because they're just like, there's a guy with a bomb, and you got to shut your business down right now, shelter in place, right? So, like, we live in this society where, I mean, these are high school kids who are working at an ice cream shop, and they go through school every year. They've got to do a active shooter drill. So they're like, they're like traumatized day after day. They're always living in fear of somebody coming in and shooting their school. And then they're at work, and all of a sudden it's like there's a guy with bombs blowing up, and the cops are telling you to shelter in place. You mentioned that there was a shooting there. They know that there were people who just went to work at King Soopers and never came home. So, so, so the, it seems like, okay, well, it was just a small group of people who were attacked. And which is true, but the impact of terror is,
It's a big impact. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because earlier you were talking about how you don't go to protest because you're a target. So you walked by their rally. And another thing that we're not going to get into because we've been on vacation is the LA riots and everything that's been going on there. And that's been a big conversation in the barbershop, and people have been asking me, what's been my opinion of it, because I'm always very open politically when people want to have conversations in the shop. And it's been weird because I've had to say, up until this point in my life, I've been very much understanding of where people on the left have been stating this. But what's been really interesting is, a week prior to all of these events happening in Los Angeles, there was something that happened literally blocks away from where my dad lives. And it's exactly what everybody has been talking about. It's a guy who overstayed his visa, who came and attacked peaceful protesters that were just trying to live their lives. And if that's what people are going, if that's what the administration is going after, that event happening a week prior to all these riots has given me a different filter in the way that it is that I'm looking at it. And it's not to say that I want things to happen without due process. And it's not to say that I want sweeping actions. It's not even to say that I want any of this to happen at all, period. It's just to say that terrorism impacts things so much that even someone like me can now take a look at it from a different perspective. And even yesterday, there was the No King's Day protest, and this is actually a really funny story. So Haley and I are talking about this, and a lot of my clients are talking about it. Like, this protest feels really different. It's the it's the Army's birthday, but it's Trump's birthday, and it's this protest that's happening all across America, and all these things are going on in Los Angeles, and like it's just this tipping point and this boiling point, and there's so many people dissatisfied. And, are they going to send in the National Guard like they are in Los Angeles? The Idaho governor just approved that ISP is going to be helping the National Guard in the situation that ICE needs to be able to have detainment. So, like, there's a lot of these underlying things that are making people uncomfortable going into the protest. But I wanted to take pictures. So I get there really, really early regardless, because I want to see people that as they're coming in, get set up, and I want to get kind of an idea for it. Plus, I will always go to every single police officer stationed there, thank them for being there and keeping people safe, letting them know, hey, I'm just taking pictures, and just kind of building relationships with the people that are there to protect us. So that way, if something bad does happen, hey, remember, I had already told you who I was. And it's smart things like that to be able to just try and prevent disaster from happening. But I'm leaving the house at, I think, 9 in the morning. And bear in mind, it's Idaho. So Idaho, Boulder, Colorado, two very, very, very different places when it comes to the types of firearm communities that exist and the types of stores that exist. That is important context for this. So I get 2 blocks away from my house, and I look in my rearview mirror, and there is a Humvee with a mounted turret on top of it. And I'm just like, is the fucking National Guard actually going to be at the protest today? Holy crap, is it actually at that place right now in America? Oh my god! And we're it's following me. It is going the exact same direction I'm going, and it's going 2 under the speed limit, and I'm going 2 over the speed limit. So I'm not gonna intentionally slow down to see if this giant mounted, weapon-mounted vehicle is actually what I think that it is. So this goes on for about 2 miles, and then I get to the intersection where it finally gets into my rear view and I can read the license plate and I realize, oh, this is the guy who owns Patriot Ammunition and has this parked in front of his shop all the time. You asshole for parking or driving it today.
There's
Speaking of, how was the Army's birthday?
there for me it was really really great. There's I, I've got a lot of friends. I mean, a lot of friends who served in the Army. Um, and I mean, the Army's been around for 250 years, and I was in the Army for 8% of its existence. There's a, uh, so, so it was an important day for me, and it was an important day for a lot of veterans. Um, and I thought the, the only unfortunate thing about the parade in DC is uh is that it happened to fall on the president's birthday. And
Which, in defense of this parade that I will absolutely defend needed to happen, Biden planned the whole thing to begin with. This was in the planning and in the works for well over a year. It's just that the current administration added more to the budget.
yeah, and it was very much a presentation of the Army's history. So they began with Pershing Zone, the band, and then there were the third U.S. Infantry, the Old Guard that's based in Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
They came by in revolutionary garb. Um, so they started with soldiers, actual soldiers, dressed in period garb for the Revolutionary War, and then they did the Civil War, and then they did World War One, and then they did World War Two, and then they did the Vietnam War, and then they did no, and then they did the Korean War, then they did the Vietnam War, and then they did the global war on terror. So the
Okay.
so the parade, so like the 82nd Airborne marched by the review stand dressed up in the same uniforms that the 82nd Airborne wore during World War II.
That's cool.
Yeah, and the Big Red One marched by in the very same uniforms that the Big Red One wore during World War One. And
Okay.
yeah, so it was
It was
and
very symbolic and it was very respectful of where it's come from.
yeah, and like the vehicles, they were talking about tanks, there were tanks and stuff like that, but it began with a horse-drawn uh uh artillery piece from the Revolutionary War. And then there was so the vehicles were, first it was like the Jeep during World War II. So they had Jeeps go by and they had a half track go by. And the first tank that went by was the Sheridan tank that was a mainstay during World War II. So it was very much a presentation of the Army's history. And then at the end, when they were talking about the global war on terror, there was SOCOM and the Raider Regiment and special forces groups, and it was so it was a very very, and interestingly enough, I've got a neighbor who she came over and was telling me about the No King's Day parade here in town. So we were talking. We both have dogs. We were talking. She was like, "Yeah, I was down at the what do they call those things? The farmers market, and the protest was right next to it. She's like, "Oh man, it was lively. There was all kinds of people there."
Yeah, the one in Chicago was huge and massive.
The one in Boise, I saw some videos of it. That was very big.
It was big. Yeah, like I got to give BPD credit. They have maintained such a good presence to make sure that it stayed peaceful. Every single protest that I've gone to since February, but they have progressively gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And I never would have imagined this turnout.
Yeah, I had a few friends that went and they sent pictures, and then I saw a news reel that showed a video of it. So it was very, 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 very big. But and like so, like the president um reenlisted. Sorry, the president reenlisted a bunch of guys. So there was a whole formation of people who were reenlisted in the army, and the president administered the oath, which for those people is a big, big deal. They'll remember
Yeah.
that for the rest of their life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like when you did your final reenlistment ceremony in Hawaii. Yeah, you did it in a very, very ceremonious way that could be remembered because it was special. And to get, regardless of who the commander in chief is at the time, to be reenlisted on the 250th birthday by the commander in chief in DC, like I'm one of the few people that I know that was like, yeah, it's a parade. Like, and I'm perfectly fine with this parade existing and happening. I think that this is a good thing to celebrate. And maybe there's a little bit more money that needed to be spent, that got spent on it. But when do you turn 250? Like it's a big one. So, spend the money. And especially with the recruitment numbers, the enlistment numbers, the way that they are, maybe the idea that we'll make the money back on recruitment, maybe there's some truth to that. One could hope.
And that's what, so my neighbor, she was like, well, I wonder if they're going to allow women to be in the parade, because that's kind of her deal. Oh crap. My watch is going beep. So I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure they're going to let, women participate in the parade. There's nothing going to stop them. But she, there's her thing. She just, in her mind, she sees prejudice against women, in particular with regard to the military. So that's her worldview. So I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that they will be. But it was one of those things where it wasn't like, if it would have been during Biden's administration, it would have been
boring.
And they would have done something like that isn't real. So they would have been like, this is a first all-female company.
It would have been Jeff Bezos sending 6 women to the edge of space to celebrate International Women's Day. It was like, okay, no one gives a shit about Katy Perry at all.
But this was, so the guy who led the whole parade was a 2-star general who's the commander of the military district in Washington. So he's the very, very one guy in the very, very front of the whole parade. And then behind him is a line of 5 people who are the primary staff officers for his organization. 2 of those 5 were women. And it wasn't because they weren't in that formation because they needed to fill the formation.
It's because they earned that position and they held that position.
That's because, so yeah. As it went through, there's surely, when an infantry unit went by, there weren't a whole lot of women in the infantry unit. But that's not because they're not allowed to go there. It's just because people, don't choose to go to the infantry if they don't want to go. And there's a certain level of smooth-brained you must be to want to go into the infantry. And there absolutely are those women who are in the infantry, and they are commanding units, infantry units. And
not to say that they're smooth-brained, but there's just a certain level of like, are you sure you want to do that, or do you want to maybe be a mechanic?
But I mean, you meet these ladies, and they're like, you're like, okay, yeah, you're the infantry. I understand
Yeah,
that. You're
yeah.
there. So anyway, I thought it was a wonderful parade. There were so many veterans there. You could see just the look on the faces of the soldiers that were participating, that they were all proud that they were there. I know that, after the parade, they were all, out at the bars in DC last night. And, it was, there were probably people buying them beers and, they were
It
hooting
was
and,
probably a good night all around.
yeah, they were hooting and
Yeah.
hollering, and they're going to remember it for the rest of their lives. It was a very, very good thing. It was well done. And it's just plain unfortunate that, that because it was on the president's birthday, and because, the media on both sides wants to try and pit people against each other. They're like, oh, well, Trump is having a Trump parade.
Yeah.
And all that does is take away from what,
From what the army has actually done. And that's, I think that that's one of the interesting things about being in a adult life where I'm involved with more civilians as my peers that have never had any kind of interaction with being either adjacent to the military or being a part of a military family, that they just don't understand the value that the military holds. And it's so funny talking to young people, especially that grow up in a world of having never seen the military and knowing nothing about the military other than Call of Duty. And they think so little of the military that I am a little bit of a minority in my friend group and thinking that if we were to change the public perception of the military as being this negative thing and this really toxic environment, but no, we're really strong. And there's some value in strength, which is a lesson that I've been learning in the last couple of years as I've actually been focusing on fitness. Like, yeah, there's value in strength. There's value in being able to defend yourself. We should take pride in that, and we should take pride in the fact that we have an entire part of our country that does this, so that way we can have privileged people. I'm okay with making efforts into making the public perception of the military a little bit more palatable. That's why I think SpaceX is a good idea. This is why I think that getting as many crowns to the Marines as possible is a great thing.
that's when we lived in Dahlonega, you probably remember that they had parades for everything, man. I mean, when
Uh-huh.
Little League started, they had a parade. And, and one of the things that's amazing is all you have to do is put a fire engine in the street. And when that fire engine goes by, everybody is going to clap at the fire engine
Yep.
because they appreciate what those people do. They appreciate that they go to work.
Nobody hates firemen.
That's exactly right.
Nobody hates firemen at all.
What a
Except cops.
except cops. Yeah, there's
Except cops.
but what a really, really great thing to have is to have some part of your community that you're like, man, I really appreciate this. And and I think we've lost a good bit of that. Um because it seems like we're always protesting against something and we're rarely celebrating the wonderful things that we do have.
I think this is a great place where we can end it,
Yep.
which is just on the note of find something positive in your neighborhood, find something uplifting in your community, recognize it, celebrate it, and take mental breaks from the fact that the world is always going to suck, but you can find good things if you're looking for them.
Find one flower to take a picture of every day.
One, call your dad on Father's Day.
Yeah,
It's okay.
exactly.
All right. Well, we're going to be back in the middle of July for season 2 of Supper Talk Podcast. This is your bonus episode for the end of season 1. We're going to continue on with our mental health break, although I'll be on a mental health break. Dad is going to be doubling up schoolwork, which is far from it. If you know of anyone who could use some examples of family members that actually can have conversations regardless of what their political affiliation is, send them our podcast. That would be really awesome. If you've been listening to us and you don't yet follow us, you should change that. You should go follow us. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Amazon Music. If you're already following us, did you know you can help us by leaving a review? That would be awesome. So leave us a review, leave us comments, let us know what you want us to talk about when we get back from our vacation. But in the meantime, to all the dads out there, happy Father's Day.
Happy
And
Father's
we'll
Day,
see you
y'all.
here in a couple weeks.
Peace.